Ah, VTuber, such a unique way to express oneself. Who knew that you could portray such emotion through a virtual model? All seems good at first, everyone is laughing, having fun, and just playing games together. However, when you start to go down the VTuber rabbit hole, you begin to realize that not everything appears to be all sunshine and rainbows. You may be asking, what do you mean? VTubing culture has a problem with gender bias, parasocial relationships, sexualization, and audience entitlement. It's similar to idol culture in a way, where their lives are dictated by what social media says about them. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. In today's video, we will be discussing the major problem with VTubing. Before we begin, I attempted to contact a few VTubers for their opinions on this subject, but unfortunately 1 week later I did not get a response back. I am mentioning this to show that I try to get some personal data, but besides that, please sit back and enjoy the video. Typically when people think of VTubing, they think it's just regular streaming with an anime model. However, this is not the case. VTubing is a mix of live streaming, character performance, anime aesthetics, idol culture, voice acting, role-playing, chat interaction, and fan community. The reason this matters in my argument is because in normal media, the audience usually watches from a distance. You can watch an actor, musician, streamer, or anime character, but there's usually a clearer boundary between viewer and performer. For example, a KTH thesis I looked at references older research from the 1980s showing that audiences could form emotional attachments to soap opera characters. So people developing feelings toward media figures existed long before VTubing. But now imagine that same emotional attachment in the age of live streaming. With that KTH thesis in mind, you can see how VTubing blurs that line. A VTuber can feel fictional and real at the same time. The avatar model may be a character, but the person behind it is real. They can chat, read donations, and form inside jokes. This makes the viewer feel noticed. The KTH thesis I mentioned earlier describes this as digital intimacy. It looks at how VTuber audiences form parasocial relationships with creators. It also uses the concept of nakana no hito, which in Japanese means the person inside. That matters because viewers are not only responding to the model, they are also responding to the human presence behind it. The numbers from the thesis show how intense the engagement can be. The study had 978 participants who actively engaged with VTuber content. Out of that sample, 90.4% watched VTubers daily or several times a week, 53.9% watched at least 1 hour per session, and 77.4% had watched VTubers for at least 1 year. That does not mean every viewer is unhealthy, but it does show that VTubing is often long-term, repeated, routine-based media consumption. That is important because parasocial relationships are built through repetition. You do not usually become attached to a creator from one clip, you become attached to repeated exposure, inside jokes, comfort streams, regular schedules, emotional moments, and community participation. There was also another paper, Can't Believe I'm Crying Over an Anime Girl, which studied public grief around VTubers' graduation and termination. The authors analyzed 13,655 Reddit posts and comments across nearly 3 years and found that viewers coped with VTuber retirements in a way similar to grieving over loved ones, while also developing cope mechanisms specific to VTubing culture. The paper also points out something unique about VTubers. Even when the character identity ends and the person behind that identity is usually still alive and may later return under another identity, they treat the death or graduation of this VTuber as if it's their last time seeing them. This is very important to remember because it shows that for some viewers, the attachment they have for these VTubers are not just content. They tie it to a specific identity, voice, persona, community, and routine. When the identity disappears, these people respond with real grief. So when online critics or comments say that VTubing feels different from actual live streaming, it's because that format is built to be different. It's built to combine the fantasy of anime and our world together. That may sound cool from a live streaming perspective, but that is also where the problems start to show. When certain audience members hear the word parasocial, they immediately think it means creepy or obsessive, especially because the term gets thrown around a lot online. But a parasocial relationship is simply a one-sided attachment where a viewer feels connected to a media figure who does not personally know them. However, that does not mean it's automatically unhealthy. People have always felt attachments to actors, musicians, YouTubers, streamers, fictional characters, athletes, and even video game characters. I have that experience myself. I cried when Tyrese died in The Walking Dead. When my cousins used to make fun of Coach from Left 4 Dead 2, I would generally get upset because in my kid mind, That was my favorite character. I played through the game and grew an attachment. Obviously, even though Coach wasn't a real person and Tyrese was a fictional role played by an actor, those emotions still felt real at the time. This is the same for VTubing. You are there with their live streams and their moments, so you grow an attachment to them. This is an important distinction because personal attachment is not automatically the problem. The problem starts when the attachment turns into entitlement, obsession, or the belief that the creator owes the viewer personal access. In VTubing, the parasocial issue can become stronger because the viewer is not just watching, they are directly participating in community events or interacting with the VTuber themselves. Another good example of this is when Garo went on hiatus. In December 2022, HoloLive announced that Guro would be taking a break from streaming for health reasons. And Guro also said she and management had decided she needed serious time for her health. So this is just not Guro abandoning her fans or her content, it was a health related break. But if we consider the studies that I listed about parasocial behavior, when a creator as big as Guro leaves for a while, you can see how audience expectations and reactions start to shift. Some fans were worried, some were understanding, but others framed the lack of content as if they were being denied something that they were owed. In one Reddit discussion, a user complained that she came back to sell Valentine's Day merch and then disappeared again, or that it was time to milk the pay pigs again, while another user pushed back by saying paying members do not have the right to demand a constant flow of content because they can cancel their subscription. This situation proves my point. The problem is not fans being disappointed, the problem is when disappointment turns into entitlement. When viewers start acting like a subscription, membership, or emotional attachment gives them control over a creator's health, schedule, or personal life. This is where parasocial behavior becomes unhealthy. A viewer can support a creator, care about them, and still not be owed constant access to them. The creator has a job, yes, but they are also a person, and no job should mean an audience owes your time, your body, or your private life. The KTH thesis found that VTuber viewers are motivated by several types of needs: cognitive needs, affective needs, personal integrative needs, social integrative needs, and tension release. For people such as myself, in simple terms, people watch for information, entertainment, emotional support, identity, community, and stress relief. This makes the conversation more complicated, because it would be lazy to say people only watch VTubers because they are horny. Research suggests viewers also watch for comfort, belonging, identity, fun, shared interest, and emotional support, but that is exactly why the parasocial side can become very dangerous. If someone is using a VTuber for comfort, emotional support, routine, and identity, then the creator can start feeling more important to that viewer than a normal entertainer would, such as an actor. The viewer may begin to feel like the creator is part of their personal life, even though the creator does not actually know them. The KTH thesis also found correlations between longer viewing sessions, interactivity, emotional attachment, identification, and trust. For example, longer viewing sessions correlated with live streaming interactivity, and interactivity had positive correlations with needs, identification, emotional support, and trust. While these correlations are not proof that VTubing causes obsession, but they do support the idea that interactive live streaming is connected to a stronger viewing attachment. What I'm about to talk about is very sensitive, so I will try to define it as the best I can, but this is where sexualization enters the picture. Attraction by itself is not the problem. A creator choosing to be cute, attractive, flirty, subjective, or adult-oriented is not automatically wrong. Adult creators have the right to make adult content. Fans have the right to find a creator attractive. The issue, however, is where we put the creator's responsibility to be part of this conversation. If a VTuber chooses a sexualized model, makes subjective jokes, sells subjective content, or encourages horny chat.
Man, guys, you have no idea how much power you can have over women if you are good at making like not safe for work audio. Deep voice and you sound sexy. Oh my god, just do it. Do not safe for work audio. You will have like a shit ton of at your like feet. Okay? You're single, you don't have a girlfriend. Just do this. You'll get some in the
then yes, they are shaping the audience they attract. That does not make them a bad person, and it does not mean they deserve harassment, but it does mean they are participating in a system where sexuality, intimacy, and fantasy are rewarded. At the same time, viewers are responsible for their own behavior. A subjective model does not give someone permission to objectify a creator as a person. A flirty joke does not mean the audience is owed sexual access. A creator making adult content does not mean viewers get to ignore boundaries. So the issue is not as simple as creators are innocent or viewers are the problem. The reality is more complicated. Creators can influence the kind of audience they cultivate. Platforms can reward the most sexualized content, and viewers can still choose whether they behave with respect or entitlement. Sorry if I butcher this name, but here's a clip of VTuber Sayori setting boundaries with her chat.
I'm never gonna fuck you.
Whenever somebody's trying to flirt with me in the chat, I just tell them to shut the fuck up. If you're starting to be freaking parasocial, you call me sweetheart, you tell me I love you, and it's like you're not even joking about it, and we know because we can read multiple messages from your past, we will ban you. We will ban your ass. I don't fucking care if I lose money over this. I'm not gonna have a toxic community. That's not the community I want. I do the content I love, and you stick around if you like it, as long as you understand how to separate fantasy and reality. Even if sometimes I flirt, I remind you at the end of the day,
I'm never gonna fuck you.
because let's be realistic. Come on.
And to be clear, I'm not using this clip to say I agree with everything she has said or ever done. The point is that this clip shows something important about parasocial and flirty behavior in VTubing. My opinion on this subject is that the creator can be playful with their audience. They can have a suggestive model. They can flirt with chat as part of the performance, but it does not mean viewers are owed anything beyond that performance. At the same time, I do think creator responsibility has to be a part of this conversation as well. So the issue is not, as mentioned earlier, the creator is innocent and the audience is always bad, or the creator was asking for it. Both of those takes are just too simple. The better point is this. Creators are responsible for the tone of their content, but viewers are responsible for respecting boundaries. Making flirty jokes is not consent, and having a suggestive model is not permission. Fan service is not an invitation to treat the person behind the avatar like property. And to be fair, I am not above this conversation. My own model has eye candy elements. It is an attractive character with a tactical outfit, exposed skin, and a design clearly meant to look cool and appealing. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that visual appeal is automatically bad. That would be dishonest. VTubing is a visual medium. Character design matters. A model can be attractive, stylish, edgy, cute, intimidating, or sexy without the creator automatically encouraging unhealthy behavior. But there is a difference between visual appeal and creating a community dynamic where sexual content is rewarded. There's a difference between having an attractive model and constantly pushing the audience into the fantasy relationship. There is a difference between eye candy and making every interaction feel like flirtation, access, or sexual availability, even as a joke. That is the distinction I care about. The problem is not that VTubers look attractive. The problem is when the audience starts treating attraction as permission. And when I say sexual entitlement, I do not mean simply finding a creator attractive. What I mean is that sexual entitlement is when a viewer acts like a creator's attractiveness, subjective model, flirting, or adult content gives them permission to ignore boundaries. It is when someone treats fan service like a promise, a flirty joke like consent, or subscription like access. That is the problem. Platform policies show that this problem is not made up. Twitch's sexual harassment guidance says the problem prohibits unwanted comments, including comments about someone's body, sexual objectification, sexual requests, sexual advances, and unwanted sexualized comments. Twitch also updated its harassment rules in 2020 to separate sexual harassment into its own category and adapt a lower tolerance for objectifying or harassing behavior. YouTube's harassment policy also says it does not allow content that targets someone with prolonged insults or slurs based on physical traits or protected group status. And YouTube's broader policy updates include malicious insults based on protected attributes such as gender expression or sexual orientation. That matters because it shows that sexual harassment, appearance-based harassment, and gendered abuse are recognized platform-level problems. This is not just people are being sensitive. The platforms themselves acknowledge that these behaviors can harm creators. A 2021 ASM study, Harassment Experiences of Women and LGBTQ Live Streamers and How They Handled It Negatively, documented harassment experiences from 25 Twitch streamers from underrepresented groups, including women and LGBTQ streamers. The study says live streaming can make streamers more vulnerable to harassment because the technology encourages real-time interaction and information sharing through audio and video. Even though that study is not specifically about VTubers, it is relevant because VTubing exists inside live streaming culture. VTubers inherit many of the same problems that normal streamers deal with: chat harassment, sexual comments, entitlement, modernization problems, and the audience boundary issues. Personal/community accounts also line up with this. For example, in a Reddit discussion warning viewers not to form parasocial relationships, one user agreed that small indie VTubers may make parasocial attachment harder to break because a viewer's donations or chat messages can feel more personally impactful when the streamer has fewer viewers. That is not scientific proof, but it's useful anecdotal evidence because it shows that fans themselves recognize how interaction size and perceived access can intensify attachment. Another Reddit discussion asked how to prevent parasocial behavior, and users advised creators to set clear boundaries, communicate expectations, and block viewers who act creepy. Again, this is anecdotal, but it shows the community already talks about this as a real creator management problem. So the argument is not VTubing creates gooners. The actual argument is VTubing can amplify parasocial and sexualized behavior because it combines fantasy design, live interaction, emotional support, donations, community participation, and algorithmic clipping. It does not create self-control issues out of nowhere, but it can feed them. This topic is not going to be too hard to show, because the data points to a clear imbalance of which type of VTubers dominate the most popular parts of the space. Let's begin with the obvious. Female presenting VTubers are often more marketable in the current VTubing ecosystem, but that marketability often comes with objectification. Male VTubers may face a harder market because large parts of VTubing culture are still built around waifu appeal, fantasy, cuteness, and feminine intimacy. Industry data supports the idea that female presenting VTubers dominate the most popular parts of the space. Vice, citing stream charts and VStats Q1 2025 VTubing report, reported that among the top 4,000 plus VTubers, 70.2% of the most popular channels were dedicated to female models, 27.1% focused on male models, and 1.9% were listed as others. Stream charts also reported that VTuber live streams surpassed 500 million hours watched in Q1 of 2025, showing that this is just not a tiny niche anymore. So there is evidence for two things. 1. VTubing has grown into a major part of live streaming culture. And 2. That female presenting avatars dominate the most popular portion of the market. But that data I provided does not prove why the gender gap exists. It also does not prove sexualization is the only reason. It does not prove that male VTubers are automatically ignored because of sexism. It only supports my claim that there is a major gender imbalance of popular VTubing. That is where community discussion becomes useful, not as hard proof, but as evidence of how people inside the space talk about the problem. Reddit discussions about male VTubers often mention a lack of groundwork, infrastructure, and audience expectation from male VTubers. In one thread, a user argues that male VTubers are less popular partly because VTubing has historically been female dominated, and because of that, there is less infrastructure for male creators. Another Reddit thread asks why there's a stigma around male VTubers, and the original poster points to purity culture and the idea that some viewers only want to watch cute girls. Again, this is anecdotal, but it is directly relevant to the community perception that male VTubers can be treated as outsiders in a waifu-centered space. There is also community discussions about why male and female VTubers collaborate less often. One thread asks why male and female VTubers rarely collaborate, and the discussion centers around audience expectations, agency culture, fan jealousy, and the separation between male and female talent spaces. This is useful information because it shows us that fans themselves notice the gender divide. Of course, this does not mean every female VTuber avoids male collabs because of parasocial fans, or that every viewer gets jealous, or every agency has the same culture, but it does show that mixed gender interaction is a visible point of tension in the community. Female VTubers may be more visible, but visibility is not the same thing as respect. Female VTubers may benefit from a market that rewards cuteness, intimacy, and waifu appeal, but the same market can also reduce them to objects. Their voices, reaction, models, personalities, and even embarrassment can become sexualized.
I'm just a girl, a very gassy girl, so... Sorry. I'm so nervous and gassy, so maybe it's time for Freddy.
Clips can spread because they are subjective, flustered, cute, or waifu coded, even when the creator's actual talent is not the main focus. Male VTubers face a different issue. They can be ignored, dismissed, or treated like they do not belong unless it fits a very specific appeal. Some audiences see VTubing as a waifu-centered medium first and an entertainment medium second. So the issue is not women are stealing attention from men. That is just stupid. The issue is that the market rewards certain fantasies more than others. And when a market rewards fantasy, intimacy, and attractiveness, creators are judged by different standards depending on how well they fit that fantasy. So after looking at the sources, I do not think the right conclusion is VTubing is bad. I also do not think the right conclusion is female VTubers are the problem. The better conclusion is this: VTubing is a medium built around intimacy. The research shows that viewers engage with VTubers for entertainment, emotional support, identity, community, and stress relief. The same research shows that many viewers watch frequently for long sessions and over long periods of time. Other research shows that viewers can grieve VTuber graduations or terminations in a way that resemble grief over losing a meaningful figure in their lives. Industry data shows that female presenting models dominate popular VTubing. The problem appears when the culture rewards women as fantasies while refusing to respect them as entertainers, and when the male VTubers are treated as outsiders because they do not fit the same fantasy. If VTubing wants to keep growing as a serious form of entertainment, which it already has, then the culture around it has to be honest about this. Behind every avatar is a person. And no matter how fictional the model looks, the person still deserves boundaries. Until our next adventure, have a good day. Goodbye.